Welcome to day 153 of 66 and 26, our journey to read through all 66 books of the Bible in 2026. We're in a new book today in the New Testament, that is the book of Colossians. You might remember that last week we were in Philippians, and I mentioned that Philippians was known as a prison epistle, a prison letter. And Colossians, same thing, that St. Paul wrote 3 letters while he was in prison in Rome, awaiting trial before Caesar. That was Ephesians, Philippians, and Colossians, all written about the same time, but to churches in different areas. Philippians is to a church in Philippi, which is in present-day Greece. Ephesians and Colossians are written to 2 churches in Ephesus and Colossae, which are in present-day Turkey. Now, we're not exactly sure what was going on in the Colossian church, but there was apparently some controversy about the divinity of Christ, because Paul makes a pretty big deal about the divinity of Christ here in Colossians chapters 1 and 2, as he says, "He," that is Christ, "is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation, for by him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities. All things were created by him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together." And then he says that Christ is head of the church. So he's in charge of all things. He is king over all for the sake of the church in particular. And then Paul goes on in Colossians chapter 2 to say that in Christ, all the fullness of the deity, all the fullness of the Godhead lives in bodily form. And then we have been given fullness in Christ also, and that includes freedom from all the regulations of the law. In Colossians chapter 3, Paul says, because you have been freed in Christ and set free and raised to new life in Christ, set your hearts, set your eyes, set your minds on things above, where Christ is seated and where our true life in him is kept for us until that day when he returns and reveals this new life that is already ours in Christ. We have new life. We have been raised from the dead. We're just waiting to see that with our own eyes, and that'll be revealed to us in the last days. One of my favorite verses here in Colossians chapter 4, Paul says, Colossians 4 verses 5 and 6, "Be wise in the way you act toward outsiders. Make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversation be always full of grace." Our conversations, because we have been shown grace, our conversations should be full of grace also, showing kindness and compassion and love for all, even those who are difficult to love and to be kind to. That is a mark of the fact that we have been raised in Christ to new life, and that new life plays itself out in grace for all.